The red and white cars won 12 Grand Prix, and Niki Lauda and Alain Prost finished at the top of the table, half a point apart. But when the Formula One circus assembled for the first 1985 round, the Brazilian Grand Prix in Rio de Janeiro, there was all the unpredictability of a new season. 6 months had passed since the previous race in Estoril, and among the different faces in different cockpits was Lotus new boy Ayrton Senna, who dominated pre-race testing in Rio in the latest Type 97T. But Ferrari, Williams, Brabham, Renault and others also had new cars. And on the grid it was Alboretto's Ferrari and Rosberg's Williams at the front, with the Lotuses on row 2. Back on row 3 was last year's winner, Alain Prost.
At his first start of the season, Alboreto is on pole position. I am in 5th on the grid. Mansell just passed in front of me, but he's going to touch Alboreto's car. He's going to do a spin in front of me. I have a good chance to pass Senna in the same time, and I'm third in the first corner, which is a very good opportunity for me. And Alboreto is just ahead me. Rosberg takes the lead. It's a very good car, very good powerful engine. At the moment the only thing I want is to stay behind Alboreto and just take care about the tires, about the car. I'm very confident about this race, but it's always very difficult because of the heat, about the tires, about the engine, about the gearbox. So I'm be very careful about everything. Niki did a good start, but he's 8 or 9. He's going to pass many cars. Rosberg takes the lead about 2 or 3 seconds ahead of Alboreto and myself the first lap. Senna is fourth, De Angelis, Arnoux, Piquet and Niki. Piquet has a gearbox problem, and everybody expects performance from Piquet in Brazil and with Pirelli tires, because we did all the tests during the winter in the same condition with the heat. Rosberg is still leading, but he has an engine problem or turbo problem, and Alboreto and myself passed him. So at the moment I'm just behind Alboreto, and I feel very confident because my car is better than his car. The only problem I get is he's quicker than me in the straight, and it is very difficult to pass him. So I must wait a good opportunity, and Niki is coming back. He overtakes Senna, and he's third, and he's coming back behind me. He's a little bit quicker than me at the moment because Alboreto is slower, and I can't pass him. So I'm going to have a very good opportunity. Alboreto did a little mistake, miss a gear, and I pass him in front of the pits very easy. At the moment I have no problem at all because I'm much quicker than him. The only problem I get is just take out fuel consumption, gearbox, tires and myself. I'm ready to stop for the tires. I'm going to wait middle of the race, stopping the tires. At the moment, if I have not mechanical problem, I should finish first. And stop for electronic problem. He will stop long time to the pits, will start again, but he's not in the points anyway. It's a shame because we could have finished first and second. That's my pit stop. Very good job from mechanics, about 10 or 11 seconds. And I even never lose the lead because Alboreto stopped behind me. With fresh tires, I have no problem at all. The car is always perfect. Senna stopped for electric problem. Must be very disappointing because in Brazil, in front of his public, he wanted to win the race. So that's the last lap. Alboreto is coming back, but I'm quite slow. I just take care about the fuel consumption. Only half a lap to do. I'm quite happy in the car, as you can imagine. For the first race of the season, only 9 points. The car was very fantastic in this race. I never had any problem. Brakes, gearbox, tires, everything was perfect. The third time I win in this track in Rio. Just 50 meters, and I can see the mechanics jumping on the track. very happy, not as happy as me. Alberto is second, and De Angelis is third.
So McLaren had done it again, their 8th consecutive victory, and Alain Prost opened his 1985 account with 9 points. But just as the pundits began to predict another year of McLaren walkovers, round 2 upset the form book. For the first European race of the year, teams returned to Portugal and Estoril, with a major change at Ferrari. René Arnoux was out, Stefan Johansson was in. The German Zakspeed team were having their first Grand Prix, with Jonathan Palmer at the wheel. Senna dominated practice, with only Prost getting within half a second of him. And then, on Sunday, it rained. But that didn't worry Ayrton Senna.
So that was my first pole position, only my second year in Grand Prix. Portugal was very good to be there. Important to have a clear start with no accidents and be clear on the first corner of any spray from the tires and in the wet conditions. And so we were going to the race with a very slippery track, cars sliding everywhere, very hard to keep the cars under control. You often see cars just sliding around the place with purely lack of grip and too much power. That's the end of the straight, where you come about 200 miles an hour, go to a right hand corner in third gear, so it's a big break point and a big corner. That's the end of the first lap. That is the incident between Patrese and Johansson, where Patrese trying to take Johansson under braking. And then we see Prost putting the pressure over De Angelis for the second place.
Since 1982. But for round 3, the San Marino Grand Prix, what the fans wanted was a Ferrari victory. After qualifying, what they got was Senna and Rosberg on the front row, Alboreto on the second. And in a lowly 15th spot, in only his second race for Ferrari, Stefan Johansson.
The practice for me here was not particularly good. I had a lot of problems with my car. One engine broke and I had to use the spare car. And I was down in 15th place on the grid. And in fact my start was not particularly good either, so I think I lost another 2 places on the first lap. But I was still quite happy with the car in race condition. We'd done a lot of laps with full tanks and I was quite confident before the race that it was going to go reasonably well. I took it quite easy in the beginning because I wanted to save the tires, and also we all knew that it was going to be quite marginal on the fuel. So therefore I decided to take it easy for the first 10 laps or so. In the meantime, there was a very good dice up at the front between the 2 Lotuses, Michele and Alain Prost. That went on for a very long time, I believe. I think that's Prost just overtaking Aliola. Meanwhile, I got up to 6th place quite early on, and it was quite interesting to see the reaction from the public. Well, as you can see on this picture here, in the beginning when I overtook cars there was really nothing, but as soon as I started to get in the points they started to get quite excited. I think this is Michele about to break down here. This is Michele pulling into the pits. I think the reason why he stopped was because he had a flat battery or something. They did send him out again, but it only lasted for a few more laps before he had to stop again. And here's the moment where I'm about to overtake Elio, I think. I was behind him for many, many laps trying to overtake, but there was no way I could make any ground on him on the straights. So I knew I had to put it all at one go when we had some traffic, some back markers to overtake. It did work out, but it was pretty close. And then Alan started to slow down here because obviously his fuel gauge was reading that he had to take it a bit easy. The reason I didn't slow down particularly was because halfway through the race I already turned the boost down a bit because I tried one lap and I could do about the same lap time even so. So I thought it's better to be safe and have a little bit extra in the end of the race if I had to charge. It was nice when I overtook Senna for the lead to see the reaction from the crowd, and you could actually hear the crowd above the engine, which was an incredible feeling. Unfortunately, there was something wrong with the engine. There was a little crack in the turbo inlet in the log, which made the electronics read the wrong consumption, so it pumped in too much fuel. And that, of course, made the car eventually run out of fuel a lap and a half from the end. Well, obviously then it was not a very nice feeling. Maybe I shouldn't relate what I thought on the TV. There's Prost crossing the line. And there's Elio cruising in as well. We'll walk back to the pits. There's a lot of exercising at the end of the race here. I think everybody just about had to walk back to the pits or push their car. It's Alan receiving the trophy, which he eventually had to hand over to Elio because he was disqualified for the car being underweight.
In post-race scrutineering, the still said that Prost's car was 2 kilograms underweight, and that was that. For Prost it was an unlucky day, just as it was for Johansson and for Senna. McLaren had only collected 3 points in 2 races, and now a Lotus driver, De Angelis, led the table by 4 points from Alboreto, with Prost in 4th place behind Tombe. And so to Monte Carlo, and the most famous race of the year, where Grand Prix cars have long since outgrown the narrow, twisting track, but where they still manage to produce one of the great spectacles of the year. After missing the opening races because they had no tyre contract, Toleman were back with sponsorship from Benetton and a car for Teo Fabi. Pole again belonged to Senna, but Nigel Mansell was less than a tenth slower, and leading row 2 was Michele Alboreto.
Was a very good start for the first part of the grill, but not in the middle because Johansson have an accident with Tambay and Berger. We can see at the back. Senna was really quick at the beginning of the race, and I tried to pass Mansell in the first lap. Here we can see Johansson fly over some of the cars. In fact, Tambay and Berger was off of the race. That's the place when I tried to pass Mansell. I was a little bit too quick for the Sandervoort corner, but everything was good. Here Ayrton Senna blowing up the engine, and I passed him, and I was first in the race. My car was really good in this moment. I feel the race in my hand, but unfortunately was an accident between Patrese and Piquet. I think there is not responsibility of Patrese or Piquet. It's a typical accident of Monte Carlo, and both driver was really lucky than have no injury. But that was a problem for me because I go straight on in the oil of the gearbox of Patrese, and I lost the first position again. That's the moment when I go straight on in the Sandervoort corner, and Prost passed me. But my car was not damaged, and I was sure to be good again in the race. Lauda have the same problem than me in the oil of Patrese, but he goes straight on and his engine switch off, and it was impossible for him to start again the race. Here I catch Prost. My car was really good and he missed a gear in this place, and it was possible for me to pass him first in the race again. In this moment I feel the race again in my hand, but was too soon, because I punched a tire in the place of the accident of Piquet and Patrese, and I must stop in the pits to change the tires. It was a quite quick pit stop. And I come back in the race in the 4th place. Here I pass the Cesare for the 3rd place, and here I pass De Angelis for the 2nd place. But no chance to catch Prost for the 1st place. I was really happy with my 2nd place, because when you make a pit stop in Monte Carlo, normally is really difficult to be in the point at the end of the race. It was a good result for me, but I am sure my car was better than the McLaren.
But it was McLaren and Prost that got the 9 points this time, making up for the disappointment of Imola and putting Prost equal 2nd in the championship with Alboreto, but with De Angelis still a couple of points in front. The next stop was Spa and the Belgian Grand Prix, but this turned out to be the race that never was. The newly resurfaced track broke up so badly during practice that the drivers found it impossible to race on. A new type of material had been used to improve wet weather grip and cut down spray on a track where the race is often run in heavy rain. But to the embarrassment of all concerned, the weather was hot, the track literally melted, and the event had to be abandoned, postponed until September. So the teams flew off to North America and Montreal, where the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is named after Canada's greatest driver, and where, in his memory, the Ferrari supporters are always out in force. But again, it was a Lotus on pole, De Angelis this time ahead of Senna. However, the Ferraris did look very strong, filling the 2nd row, with Alboreto only 0.04 of a second ahead of the increasingly confident new recruit, Stefan Johansson.
The practice here was a lot better for me than what I've been used to up until then. It was really the first time that I had a reasonably problem-free run, as far as just getting enough laps in during practice, and especially during qualifying. I concentrated on using race tires all the time, which probably worked out better because there was very little difference between the qualifiers and the race tires here. I lost 1 place in the start to Warwick, but he spun out after 2 or 3 laps, so that got me back to 4th place quite quickly. And I took it fairly easy in the beginning when the tanks were completely full, to save the tires a little bit and also the brakes, because it was going to be quite marginal here. After about 10 or 15 laps I started to make some progress to the front. That's Ayrton pulling out with, I think he had a problem with the intercoolers or something. It was definitely an unscheduled stop, as you can see. Andreas damaged his nose cone on something. Don't know exactly what happened there. I think he had some kind of incident with Winkelhock. Oh yes, he certainly did. Here's Michele trying to overtake Elio. Very exciting stuff. I think he will have another go. the hairpin here, where really all the overtaking is taking place at Montreal. And our car was particularly good out of this corner, which is a big advantage because you got a lot of, if you can put the power on here, you got a lot of strength coming onto the straight. As you can see here when Michael actually gets him on the outside going into the first corner. Oh, terrific. Magic. How could he find first gear so quickly? That's very, very nice. And this is Alio having a very heavy shunt. It's incredibly fast out of this corner. It's quite surprising he actually got away without injuring himself there. And this is me trying to overtake Elio. Not so much trying to overtake there actually, it's just making him a bit nervous to know that I'm around. The next lap I had to go again, but this time I tried to get him as far as possible to the inside of the corner so he would get a very bad line out of it. You can see he's got too much wheel spin when he comes out, and I can power out of the corner much better than him and actually overtake him into the next one. And after this it was really just a question of bringing it back home. I did catch Michele quite a lot in the end, but I think he was cruising a bit, and at the same time as I got close to him, my engine started to develop quite a bad misfire out of the slow corners, which it did have during the whole race, but it got very bad at the end. So I literally, as soon as I got up behind him, I started to drop back again. Oh, Tomini getting very excited there. And in fact, it got so bad in the end that Prost caught me up and almost overtook me in the last 2 or 3 laps, but I think he also had to slow down in the end because of his fuel consumption, which probably just about saved me second place because there was really nothing I could do at this time to speed up. And this is the last lap, and Michele's got a very comfortable cushion there, and so have I actually. I have to overtake Berger here, lap him, making a bad mistake over the curbs there. Shouldn't do that. It was nice to finish on the podium for the first time in a Formula One race. And there's the checkered flag. 1-2 for Ferrari. Long time since that happened. Very, very happy everybody in the team. As Prost stopped after the race. I don't know if he actually ran out of fuel or if he stopped to have a few more litres in the engine when they weigh the car afterwards, especially after what happened at Imola. It's the old champagne. I found a nice victim down in the crowd here. Give him a bit of a shower. There he is, poor guy.
It was the first Ferrari 1-2 for 2 years. Put Alboreto at the head of the championship table with Prost 5 points behind, and the ever-consistent De Angelis in equal second place with him. But the other half of the North American visit, the tight, bumpy Detroit track, always produces an upset, and this season was no exception, even if the front row of the grid mirrored that of the previous round-the-houses race, Monte Carlo, with Senna a fraction faster than Mansell. Back on the third row was that round-the-houses specialist and most determined of racers, Keke Rosberg.
Well, qualifying my part had been fairly uneventful, and I think I was 5th or 6th on the grid, just behind Alboreto. Decided to go for the gap between the wall, and it got a little bit close there, but made a reasonably good start. Got in the first corner on the 4th place, and we had decided with my tyre engineer to take other tyres than all the other leading drivers had, just based on feel on more than on anything else. And at least right in the beginning it showed that as expected the softer tyre would be better, because the hard tyre takes a little bit longer to warm up, and he just passed Prost into 3rd, and it was Senna, Mansell leading, and I was in 3rd place. See Nicky very far down. Yeah, Senna is still leading. I think I'm second already in this picture. And unfortunately camera missed it here. I've just taken the lead from Senna after about 7 or 8 laps. Tires and car were working very, very well. And although we had some bigger problem with the engine maybe compared with others, still in Detroit, it all seemed to be going extremely well. And I was on a harder tire compound than I was, and it fairly soon became obvious for him that he wasn't going to be able to stay with me on those tires. Went in for a tire change, but unfortunately got the same hard tires again, which wasn't going to help him a whole lot. And after Senna went in for the pits, I was really traveling on my own, just watching for the gap for the others. And about this stage of the race I started getting a slight problem already with overheating. It was quite obvious that one of the radiators was blocked. Here Senna has just come out of the pits with his new tires, cold tires, clips the tire wall there and pulls one tire out. This is probably one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in Grand Prix racing. A guy going the wrong way behind a blind corner. Not very advisable. Martin Brundle in the Tyrrell showed very, very well with the Cosworth last time. The last time definitely was Cosworth running competitively. As one of Nigel's spins, he had a lot of brake problems. I think he spun twice before he then finally hit the wall. This corner where Prost is now hit the wall was the worst during the race. 2 inches off from the line, it was all marbles, and as soon as he went into those marbles, just completely lost control over the car, with the result that you would go head on the wall. So it was very, very difficult because you have to stay as close as possible to the inside wall to keep your wheels off from the marbles. Nigel's still not going to give up. Senna in again for the next set of tires, hoping that it'll get some softer stuff this time. And there finally Nigel's race ended, just in the background, where his brakes let him down and he skidded on the marble straight in the wall fairly hard, damaging his hand and knocking himself out a little bit as well. There's Elio in for a new nose, new wings. I think this is one of the most remarkable accidents in that race, where Elliott got the whole blame. I don't think the situation is quite that simple. I don't think Martin, in a strong race as he was running at that time, should ever have gone for that gap. And I'm coming in the pits now finally to get the paper removed. I've radioed the pits in advance, told them I was coming in because of the paper and the radiators. I didn't see the paper removed, I only saw that I got new tires. Went out again, and because I collected some new paper again right out of the pits in the first corner, obviously my temperature never went down, and the language I used over the radio at the pits was not quite printable, because I assumed that the paper never got removed, I only got new tires, and that's not what I wanted. So here Stefan Johansson was running second, who got very, very close to me because of my pit stop. By the way, those sparks are because the car was bottoming very heavily due to our very soft rear springs, which we used in order to get maximum traction. But then once I got the temperature into my tires again after pit stop, I pulled away from Stefan, and although the engine was running 120 degrees for the last laps, it still held together, and Honda had won in America again. Being managed by the same agency, it was quite a happy one too for Stefan and myself. Even Anthony Mars, our circuit commentator, got his share of champagne there.
So, from a champagne-soaked Detroit, it was back to Europe for the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard. At last, Tyrrell had their turbocharged car, Martin Brundle using a Renault engine, although Stefan Beloff was still Cosworth-powered. In qualifying, Nigel Mansell had a lucky escape from a horrifying accident when a rear tyre exploded. He suffered concussion, which kept him out of the race. But just to show what a win can do for morale, his teammate Rosberg put Williams on the pole, although Senna was predictably up there with him. It was very hot, and the weather proved to be much to Pirelli's advantage, which was welcome news for Nelson Piquet.
I was fifth in the road, and I don't usually to have a good start, and this race I had a very, very good start. After the first fast corner, I was in a third position. You see, it came in Keke leading, Senna and me. I knew it was be a very, very hard race for Ricard. Have a very long straight. It's very hard for the engines, and it's very difficult to finish this race. Keke was very, very quick in the straight. I saw Ayrton was not that quick, the Renault engine. Behind me, Alboreto, Helio, Lauda, Prost. You can see after 2 or 3 laps I could see that the Pirelli tire was working a little bit better than Goodyear, and my car was a little bit quicker than Renault car in the straight. That will be no problem to overtake Ayrton, but was for sure will be some kind of problem to overtake Keke in the straight. Like I said, it's a very, very hard race for the engine. You see here Lafitte in the first 3 laps already blow up. Here you can see Alboreto also is smoking a turbocharge. Well, I was already trying very hard to get Senna. Okay, that was my first try in the straight line. He tried to overtake me back, but was too late. And after that I tried to push a little bit more to get close to Keke, and in the meantime I was studying how come can I overtake him, because in the straight line it was impossible. That's Ayrton in the pits. He stopped for tires. That was when after about 10 laps I tried my first try to overtake Keke, and I got him in the long corner after the straight. Was a very dangerous place to try, but it was the only place I could. Keke tried to overtake me backwards, was too late. And after that I was easy in the front and walk away. Everybody was happy in the pits, and there's still 42 laps to go. Keke did a very big hold to the McLaren about all race. Ayrton had a very, very big shunt, and was very lucky because it's backwards. I knew after he had oil leak in the engine blow up, and the oil went straight in the rear tires. That's the reason he had this incredible accident. Well, Keke held the McLaren for a long time, and here Nicky had a problem with the gearbox, and then the lap after that Prost overtake Keke because he had already troubled the tires, but he came very quick in the pits, changed the tires, and he could get Prost back in the last lap. Was very excited for the second place. That was my last lap. The car is still in a very good condition. The rear tire was a little bit finishing, but still good to finish in front. It was a very, very fantastic race for Pirelli because it was the first winning after so many years, and the first hot race of the season, and that was the main thing, because all the tests we done was in Brazil and South Africa, and that's the reason we did very good in Paul Ricard. I was very, very pleased with the tires, and I can say the car works very good, the engine works very good, but the superior I had was the tires.
With Rosberg second, Prost third and Alboreto failing to finish, the French Grand Prix still left Alboreto leading the points tally, but with Prost now a tantalising 5 points behind. No sign of a McLaren walkover now. Ferrari had 50 constructors' points at this stage, with Lotus on 35 and McLaren only third with 29. The 7 races so far had been won by 6 different drivers in 5 different makes of car, so 1985 was proving the most open season for a long time. 2 weeks later we were at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix, applauding Keke Rosberg's incredible qualifying average of 160.9 miles an hour. It was clear that this was going to be a very fast race, and a thirsty one, and the result would be crucial for the points-hungry Alain Prost.
Rosberg is on pole, Piquet is second, I am third. Senna is fourth, doing a good start. I start very well too, but I have no room to pass Piquet or Rosberg. So Senna takes the lead at first corner, I am third behind Rosberg. Tambay is very quick on the back, but a little bit too quick the first corner. Touch Johansson, he's out himself. Ayo touch Kinzani, there's 4 cars out at first corner. Bad start for Tambay. Senna is leading the race. We had Rosberg, Mansell, myself, the Cesaris, Piquet, Alboreto, De Angelis. Rosberg tried to overtake Senna in the first lap. They are very quick at the first part of the race. I am fourth, but I don't use all the power on my engine. I almost spun on the oil at Beckett's. The Cesaris is behind me, and he's going to overtake me through the chicane. I still don't use a lot of power because I want to save more fuel, but I am still in contact with Mansell and the Cesaris. I'm still fifth. The Cesaris overtakes Mansell, start to get some problems, but I'm going to overtake Mansell again in front of the pits. I am fourth at the moment, but I feel that the car is going very good, and I can use more power if I want because I have enough fuel. I can see that with my computer, and I'm going to overtake the Cesaris for the third place through the chicane. I was not quite sure with the Cesaris because it's sometimes very dangerous driver. I'm behind Rosberg. He's going to be very fair with me. That's for the second place. I was 10 seconds behind him, and I'm catching him very quickly, and through the chicane I'm going to do the same overtaking than the Cesaris. It's very fair. Never shut door. Now I'm second. I'm going to chase Senna for the first place. Rosberg has a problem with the engine. It's a shame. I tried to overtake Senna, shut the door. It will be a long fight with Senna, but he gets a problem with the engine. Every time I was behind him, he just put more boost, more power, and he is in trouble with the fuel. So I just take the lead, but I've seen that Senna was just behind me again. And he's going to overtake me. Just when we pass Nicky, we get alternator failure. Very unlucky this year, and Senna passed me in the sweat. I don't try to stay behind him, to stay in front of him. Very nice fight for 2 or 3 laps, but I know that Senna gets a problem. I try to overtake him, but he's going to brake very late, and just in front of the pits I'm going to overtake him for the last time because he really gets big problem with the fuel. He would never stay behind me. At about 6 laps before the end, leading the race, and Senna is going to stop for fuel. Must be very disappointing. I'm going to win the race very easy. One lap before the end. It's going to be the chicken flag, but I did not see the chicken flag on the left side. I only saw him on the right side, so I'm not quite sure. And to be safe, I will do another lap. I can see that I have enough fuel. I want to be sure. I don't want to have any problem. I am 1.5 laps ahead Alboreto with second. I'm going to get 9 points this race, but Alboreto must be very happy because he gets 6 points, 1.5 laps behind me.
9 points for Alain, 6 for Michele. At the halfway point in the season, Prost was now only 2 points behind. For the German Grand Prix, the familiar stadium of Hockenheim was replaced by the new Nürburgring. An innovation was a kart race for drivers' wives and girlfriends on the Zakspeed kart train within the circuit. After much private tuition and inside advice before the race, and much competitive dicing during it, it was Mark Seurer's lady friend who finally took the flag. Qualifying provided a real surprise. Little Teo Fabi was fastest on Friday in the Tolman, ahead of Janssens Ferrari, and on Saturday it rained, and that gave Tolman their first ever pole position and put Fabi into the history books. On race day more rain was expected, but surprise number 2, it was dry. Desperately keen to keep his championship lead was Michele Alboreto.
In German, I think I made a very good start. It was really important for me to be in front in this race, because in German normally it's very difficult to pass the other cars. The only mistake was in the first corner for me. I was too quick and I touched Johansson in the rear tires with my front wing. After that, I think in my mind I must win this race to explain to Mr. Ferrari this accident. Senna and Rosberg leading the race. Keke tried to pass Senna in the first or the second lap here. Unbelievable the speed of the Honda. And I was third in the race with behind me De Angelis and Prost. Stefan come back to the pits to change my tires, to change the rear tires. Poor Stefan, I'm very sorry for him. In this moment was a very exciting moment in the race. 4 or 5 cars leading the race all together. Here Senna tried to pass Rosberg in braking. Yes, very good overtaking. But I think Rosberg have a problem in the brakes or in the tires, I'm not sure. Tambe in reverse gear. That's half of the race. Senna blew up the engine and I was second with De Angelis behind me, but for very few laps, because he blown up the engine too. Here he blown up the engine, and I watch in the mirror Prost, my friend Prost, very close to me. But my car was really good in the street lane. I have a very good top speed, and I say if I can pass Rosberg, I can stay first for the rest of the race. In fact, after a few laps, maybe for the tires or for the brake, I'm not sure. Keke make a little mistake in the chicane before the corner before the pit here. goes slowly for a few moments, and I go inside. I touch him a little bit, but I was first in the race. Look here, we have a very, very good tires, I think. Rosberg in the pits with the brakes problem, and Prost in the grass tried to dance a little bit. Now for me it was really easy. Only control the temperature in the car and everything, and finish the race. Problem for Stefan. Very unlucky race for him. Last corner for me. One of the best moments of this season for me, for my team. Look, the typical Italian reaction. Prost second. And old Uncle Lafitte in the podium with us. I am very happy for him. Champagne for everybody.
So Alboreto had beaten Prost fair and square, and his lead had gone back up to 5 points. Next stop was the superb Österreich ring, fast and scenic. Sadly missing from the Ram team was Manfred Winkelhock, tragically killed in a Canadian sports car race a week earlier. Niki Lauda chose his home Grand Prix to announce that this season would be his last. After a career spanning 15 seasons in Grand Prix racing and one retirement already, he was off to run his airline. Unless, of course, he changed his mind again. Terrible storms the night before the race flooded the circuit area and almost washed away the hardy campers, but race day was dry. Prost and Mansell were on the front row, with Lauda and Rosberg on row 2. You had to go all the way back to the 7th row to find Ayrton Senna.
So Austria was my worst position on the grid, 14th on the grid. Big accident at the start, several cars stole. Ferrari had a crash on the back of Helio, Fabi stole as well, and then Berger finally hit them from the back. I managed to escape from the accident, but the organizers stopped the race at the end of the first lap with no really reason, because the track was clear, mainly was clear, and they could have had continued the race and cleared it properly in another lap. But anyway, the race was stopped, as you can see there, with the red flags and red flag and yellow flags, and we had a second start with De Angelis switched to the spare car as well, like Ferrari and Arrows, and we had the second start. I think Austria is a difficult place to start. Always we have some difficult ones. Keck had a very good start there, goes to second place, and I was behind, right in the middle of the field there. Then we see Keck putting a lot of pressure early in the race on Prost, but the McLarens were so strong in that meeting, they were just impossible to be caught. It was a very hard race for the equipment, so many cars dropped through the event, and the main thing was to keep going healthy, strong, but not overdoing, otherwise the engine or anything would give up. So I stay in my place for several laps, waiting to all the situations settle down. There we see Rosberg slowing down for an engine problem. So Lauda, who was third, got up to second place behind Prost. The McLarens were just going away complete from the rest. There was a good fight between Piquet, Helio and Mansell, and then Fabi, Warwick and myself. Then we see now the Chaser is having small accident, just slight damage for the car, but he was luckily safe and hurt after such a huge accident. And one of the reasons for so many rows that he had was that the night before was raining heavily, and outside the asphalt over the grass the track was all very soft with a lot of water, so as soon he left the track, the asphalt, the car just started to clip, and he had 4 or 5 rows, and was a huge accident. He was lucky to escape unhurt. For a TV view, no doubt was a excitement view. Not so much for the driver, for sure. So straight after we had Prost coming for tires. It was a very good pit stop. Quick tire change, the team did a good job there. And Prost was strong all the way through, right from the green light to the checker flag. But then several cars start to drop, and the main thing was to keep clear from accidents and keep strong the car. Mansell there stopped for engine problem, then Piquet suddenly after with I think exhaust problem, and I was then third on the race. But then Lauda had a smoke from his engine and he stopped with the engine trouble as well, so automatically I found myself in second place. And by that time Prost was uncatchable, so nothing to do about, but the Ferrari was putting the pressure on myself from behind. Alboreto was coming very strong, so I had to push a bit to keep the pace and make sure I would have still my second place by the end of the race. But it was very good to finish after a lot of races with no finishes. There in the fourth gear corner uphill, Tambay had a engine blow and spun on his own oil, but no accidents. And as I was saying, it was good to finish another Grand Prix after Portugal. I didn't finish any other Grand Prix, so that was my second finish in the year and in the rostrum again. Prost first, and I just managed to come second with the Ferrari coming very strong from behind, but with Alboreto still third. And then obviously we had to enjoy it on the rostrum, making the best of it with the champagne. A nice trophy for Prost there, and with a lot of Italians there still cheering up the Ferrari. Prost is still won. Now we will see some fun with the champagne, especially with the cameraman in a few seconds. Just giving him some taste as well.
Now things were really close in the championship table. Alboreto and Prost were level on 50 points, but no one else was within 20 points of them. In the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari were comfortable leaders on 72, but McLaren were now clearly second with 55. And so to the Dutch race at Zandvoort. Nelson Piquet put the Pirelli-shod Brabham on pole for the first time this season, with Keke Rosberg beside him. The BMW and Honda engines were showing to advantage on Zandvoort's long straight. On row 2 were Prost and Senna, and in a lowly 10th place, Niki Lauda.
So the start in Zandvoort for me was a problem because I was way back on the grid, but a lot of cars stalled in front of position, which I didn't expect at that time. Here's the first lap. You see I'm right behind Sura and Prost, so I made a very good start out of my bad position on the grid. Rosberg leading, Senna second, Prost and myself already. So this time of the race my car didn't handle very well. I had a lot of oversteer, so I was not happy the way my car was balanced. So I was just sitting there waiting when to go into the pits and change my tires. So I thought I'd do around 20 laps and then come in and change as early as possible and hopefully get a better handling back. Here are the leaders and I'm right behind them. This is the accident of Martini, which must have been a big one because all his wheels went off the car. Mansell, Senna, Prost and myself. So here is Senna right behind me, Prost and myself, stopping his car. Here's me coming in the pits after 19 laps exactly, because I really came in mainly because of my bad handling of the car. Having changed my tires, I went out of the pits and I was not happy with my handling because my car basically handled it the same way as before, but there was nothing I could do. I had to live with it. And here I'm just coming out of my first lap, and Senna just changed his tires as well. He's just right behind me. So I knew that now I can't do anything with my tires anymore, because if I change twice I'm going to lose the race. So I just tried to go as hard as possible with the car I've got. Here I'm right behind Alboreto. Alboreto in the pits to change his tires. So I think I've slowly moved up. I think when I went out I was 8th, and then I slowly moved up through the field because other people had to come in and change their tires too. At that time I was 1st and Senna I think was 2nd. And I had him well under control because, as you've seen before, I passed him easy, and there was moving into the middle of the road, so to make sure he can't outbrake me. This was a very important corner coming up now because he waited and trying to stay ahead of him, which was very close, but I won the race.
It was the closest finish of the year and a superb 25th victory for Niki Lauda. Beaten by his teammate, Alain Prost was nevertheless now ahead of Alboreto in the championship for the first time since Brazil. The next race was at that shrine of Ferrari worship, Monza, where the biggest cheers were reserved for Alboreto and the biggest boos and whistles for Prost. There was another sad absentee. Stefan Beloff had lost his life a week before in a sports car race, leaving Martin Brundle the only Tyrrell runner. A new name on the grid was Beatrice, for this was the American team's first Grand Prix, with Australian ex-world champion Alan Jones making his comeback. To the crowd's dismay, Alboreto was on row 4. After 4 races away from the front row, Ayrton Senna was on pole, and alongside him was Keke Rosberg. Third fastest was the other Williams Honda of Nigel Mansell.
Red light. The green and away. Good clean start from everybody. Putting the power down now, just starting to overtake Senna into the first corner with myself following right behind. They almost touch going into the first corner, both run across the chicane, very difficult to see where we're going. Out of the next little bit of chicane, Senna gets it wrong and I managed to get up on the inside, which puts me into 2nd place behind my teammate. Sparks flying from the car. Keke, myself, Senna, Prost, Elio and Michele Alboreto with Nelson following closely behind. Keke coming into the Parabolica, pulling out a little bit of a lead. Everybody's coming down. First overtaking manoeuvre, we have Alain Prost overtaking Senna, with Elio De Angeli closely following Senna in behind. Keke, myself, Alain Prost up into 3rd, Senna behind, Elio De Angelis catching up Senna. Quite a few little battles going on. Here you see me, I've just gone down the straight and I had to pull out through an electrical problem. I'm getting back to the pits as quickly as I can. It promotes Alain up into second, Senna third, Elio fourth, Michele fifth. Getting back to the pits as quickly as I can. Now here we have Nelson Piquet overtaking Michele Alboreto, which demotes him into 5th place. Nelson driving very, very smoothly. And here we have another significant move. Niki Lauda overtaking the Ferrari again of Michele's, which demotes him down into 6th place now. Very significant in the World Championship points. Jumping the curbs a little bit. Here we have a very, very early stop from Nelson Piquet, changing tyres and away he goes. Very early stop in the race, about lap 12. Keke in the lead. I've rejoined and I'm behind him now, just sort of staying there for most of the race. And here we have another overtaking manoeuvre, which is Niki Lauda overtaking Elio D'Angelis into 3rd place. Look at this, we have the front wing of Niki Lauda's car collapse. He's going to have to make a very, very quick pit stop, overtaken now by both the Lotuses into the pits. Very, very unfortunate for Niki Lauda, going so well. Here's myself trying to overtake the Ferrari of Michele Alboreto, but he wasn't having anything of it. Round into the Parabolica. And now just dive in front of him into the chicane at the end of the straight. Keki's in 2nd place, significantly had a pit stop. And now he's catching and driving very hard to catch Alain Prost, who's leading, just behind Michele Alboreto's Ferrari. Going down the back straight into the Parabolica, Keke gets a very, very good slipstream and overtakes Alain to regain the lead into 1st place. So Keke leading, Alain Prost 2nd. Keke Rosberg just overtaking Michele Alboreto in the Ferrari. Here we have Nelson Piquet overtaking Ayrton Senna in the Lotus for 2nd place. So we have Keke Rosberg leading, Nelson Piquet 2nd, Ayrton Senna 3rd. And now what's happening here? Michele Alboreto retakes Keke, he's in trouble. He's going to have to pull into the pits, and unfortunately his race is run. He's lost all his water and the engine's obviously about to seize and his race is finished. Very, very unfortunate for Keke Rosberg, who would have been a deserved winner. And Michele Alboreto limps into the pits. Obviously his race is run in the Ferrari, which is very significant in the World Championship point situation. Alain Prost now cruising around the Parabolica, coming onto the main pit straight to take the checkered flag for a well-deserved win. Coming up to the start and finish line now, and very relieved Alain Prost wins the Monza Grand Prix. Celebrations on the podium, Alain, Nelson and Senna. Little gesture there from Alain Prost, a bit more cheering please. And everybody's extremely happy, except for the cameraman.
Prost's championship lead was now 12 points. But with 4 races left, it wasn't over yet. A week later, it was back to Spa, now endowed with a new and much more durable track surface. In Friday qualifying, it was Niki Lauda making the news again. He crashed his McLaren and injured his wrist. And although he immediately left the circuit to have treatment, he had to withdraw from the race. As expected at Spa, the weather was to play a significant part in this race. And after morning rain, the grid formed up on a wet track, with Prost on pole, and completing the front row, wet weather specialist Ayrton Senna.
So we have the start of Spa in the conditions like Portugal. Prost was on pole, was second. Important to be well off on the green light and therefore be away from any potential accidents and a lot of spray from other cars. So I managed to be first, Piquet was second, and then he spun off exiting the first corner and slowed down a little bit all the rest of the field, which gave me a good break right from the first corner there. I had a nice lead from Prost and Alboreto, and then Manso and Johansson and the 2 Barclay cars, and then Rosberg, De Angelis. But on the top of the hill the track was getting quite dry already on the first lap, because Spa is a well spread racing track, so you have rain in one piece and the other side maybe with sun. So it was a hard job to decide when to stop for tires. We were all on wet tires, of course, but after very few laps almost everybody started stopping for slick tires, and at that moment we see Manso taking over Prost, the second position, and starting to put some pressure on myself, and then Keke coming strong over Manso with slick tires, and then Piquet as well with slick tires. A lot of spinning wheel on the pit straight. At this time myself and Manso were still on wet tires, and the tires were going off quite badly. There you see the head pit stop of Ferrari, the car going on the floor. It was a very slow one. A lot of spinning wheel now, as you can see there, smoking from the tires. There is Ghinzani with the half of his nose destroyed there, driving on 3 wheels. And at the same time, Johansson, just after the pit stop, was off the track with Patrese making a shortcut. And at this time, I was just behind Manso exiting the pits. I had a slower pit stop than him, so it was important to take him as soon as possible. As you can see there, just out of the pits, I tried by the outside over the wet with the slick tires, and that was really a chance that I decided to take, because with the Honda so much powerful on the race conditions, it would be difficult to take him on the straight eventually. I found myself that moment in 3rd place behind Boutsen and De Angelis, but in one lap I got back into 2nd place with Manso coming from behind as well, quite strong, because those 2 were still on wet tires. Like you see there, Elio De Angelis still on wet tires. So up the hill on the big straight line, I managed to take my teammate over the wet bit of the track. There was a dry line where Elio was, but at the end of the straight I could come back on the dry line, and Manso did the same thing to him a couple of corners later. So the pressure was at that moment strong from Manso. We both had our pit stop, so we didn't have to stop for tires anymore, and the conditions were very slippery on one side of the track. Here is the worst bit, and as you see now, Manso losing it from behind, from the back, and this part of the track was almost wet the full race distance, and Alio loses there as well. But this side, which was the opposite side, was almost dry, and Keke was pushing Manso quite strong for most of the race. A lot of fight going there, and that was giving me a bit of relaxation at the same time while they were fighting. But then Mansell loses the car there on top of the hill, make a shortcut like Patrese earlier on. At this time the track was drying more and more, and it was a good end. It was very good for the team, especially to win another race after such a long time early in the year, and good to be on the rostrum, especially on the top spot once more. And there you must make the best of it. You don't usually get in this situation, so spray champagne everywhere and enjoy it.
From Spa, Alain Prost could look towards Brands Hatch and the European Grand Prix with a 16-point lead over Alboreto, his only remaining rival. A good result at Brands, and a bad one for Alboreto, could give him the title of champion. For this race, John Watson was Prost's teammate. Niki Lauda's injured wrist still kept him away, so the Irishman was making a comeback 2 years almost to the day since his Kyalami swan song. A camera mounted on Patrick Tambay's Renault promised television viewers a real driver's eye view. But Ayrton Senna was once again the star of qualifying, averaging over 140 miles an hour around the twists and bumps of Brands Hatch to take his 6th pole of the year. Piquet came next, and third fastest in front of his home crowd was Nigel Mansell.
Start of the race. Red light will come on in shortly. Concentrating very hard. Here we are, red light. The green, put the power down, and the power's going down extremely well. Senna gets a bit of wheel spin, and I put the power down, drawing alongside, and we touch just going into paddock, and he sort of puts me off after break. He goes off the circuit and comes back on the circuit, and Keke slips up on the inside, and then I go wide round Druids because I got some dirt on the tyres, pull back on into 4th place. Down the hill, going up into Surtees, we have Senna, Rosberg, Piquet, Mansell, Elio, Warwick, Sura. You'll see Prost overtaking Eddie now, just going up into Surtees, staying out of trouble. By Keke right up Senna's tail into paddock. Going up into Druids, Nelson closing, myself closing, round Druids, down the hill, and here we have Keke trying for the inside line, drawing right alongside now, so they're side by side, and then Senna chopping right in, and his rear left tyre touching Keke's front, and Nelson unfortunately clipping the back of Keke's car, and he's out the race. I go up into 2nd place, Nelson legging it as quick as he can, and Keke, due to Nelson touching him, has a rear tyre coming into the pits. Not a very quick pit stop, but you'll see Alan Chalice and Patrick Head making sure that nothing else is bent in the car and checking everything, which they do a superb job, and you'll see I think it's 17 seconds they'll be out the pits. A couple of more seconds and he'll be away. 17, 18, 19 and he's off. Quite ironic, Keke comes out just in front of Senna and myself. You'll notice that I've caught Senna now and I'm right up his tail. Coming into paddock, about half a second separating us. Coming down here, Senna goes to the wrong side and I overtake him. Just get inside there and you'll notice that I passed him. All the yellow flags were waving. I was back in behind Keke, and then Keke drove superbly here and let me through, which I must thank him very much, and just cut inside Westfield, and then Keke took his line and just held Senna up momentarily. This allowed me to build up about 2 seconds, and then Keke caught me and repassed. Here we have Jacques Lafitte, who drove a very good race. You could just see his tyres blistering then. And Alain Prost going through the field. Keke, myself, about 2 seconds behind. Going down Hawthorns. Now here we have Michele, obviously making a point to the Ferrari team that his car's let him down because he drove for almost half a lap with it on fire. And as you can see here, didn't stay in the car because everyone had to catch the back end to slow it down. Obviously making the point that his championship went by the way because of mechanical failures. Here we have Mark Sura coming up into third place, overtaking Elio De Angelis, going into Hawthorns and up to Westfield. And here he is taking Senna into second place. So we have Mark in second place, Senna third, doing a very, very good drive for Brabham. Myself leading, going around Druids. I was just keeping the 15-second cushion I had built up now and driving within the tyres and the car, just hoping that everything was going to last. Here we have Alan Prost overtaking Elio De Angelis to come up into 5th place, and John Watson, his teammate for the day. This assures him the championship if he finishes in this position. Driving very sensibly, not pushing it too hard, just thinking of the championship all the time. Stefan Johansson in the pits, doesn't look a very quick pit stop, so I don't know what his problem is. And then we have Mark Sura, who was in second place, a blown turbo, very nice fire going, and I think he'll be getting out quite quickly in a minute. Note the marshals are very, very good in England. They're there on the spot and their fire extinguishers work, which is very good for the race. Here we have Keke Rosberg, who drove absolute storming race, catching Alain Prost. And I think Alan, just thinking of his World Championship, lets Keke go up into Druids here, doesn't put on much of a fight. Alan dropping back to 4th place, Keke up into 3rd. Very, very good drive indeed. And here's myself on the last lap, thinking at this point nothing can stop me from winning, hopefully. But when I went round Clearways, what a wonderful feeling. The crowd, I could hear them. Just tremendous reception. Fantastic for England. Very good for the Williams team and obviously myself. Many thanks to Patrick Head, Frank Williams and all my mechanics. They've done a wonderful job, and especially all the Honda people. Amazing how you can drive a Formula One car with no hands when you've just won the race. No problem. And here's Alain Prost coming round again, Clearways, to take the checkered flag for the World Championship. And what a deserved World Championship it is for him and the McLaren team. And compliments to Ron Dennis. There they are, congratulating one another, and Alan must be, and is, great World Champion. Here we are celebrating. Senna just started a fight with the champagne, so I thought I'd finish it. But no, everybody very happy now. Here's Alan, World Champion, and myself. Yeah, greatest moment of my life, certainly in racing. And to pull it off in front of Brands Hatch and my home crowd, extra special. Alan and I congratulating one another, the French way.
So Nigel Mansell had his first Grand Prix win, appropriately in front of his home crowd, and Alain Prost had his championship title. 19 points clear of Alboreto, he could not now be caught, whatever the last 2 races were to bring. By the time Alain got to Kyalami, little more than a week later, the 1985 champion had already started to find out about the limelight and the pressures of his new status.
Yes, I was very busy. As you understand, it was fantastic for France, for the French people, and I had a lot of work to do, not only in France but all over Europe. I was very happy to win the championship in England, not because it was especially in England, because I did not want to wait the last 2 races, or especially the last race, to become world champion. And if I'm world champion, it's because I'm driving for an English team. And that's why I'm more happy to win the championship at Brands. And everybody said, oh, it's fantastic for France, and he's going to become the first French world champion. Okay, I understand, but I mean, I feel more happy for me. First of all, you know, I worked for the last 10 years to become world champion, and when I went out from my car, I had a very nice feeling for myself, not especially for France.
The Kyalami track had been the subject of major reconstruction work, including more spacious new pits. The circuit is 6,000 feet above sea level and has a long downhill home straight, so power is all. And the Hondas and Piquet's BMW dominated qualifying, with Nigel Mansell showing his Brands Hatch form with a fine pole position.
Red lights on. And away we go. Get a tremendous start here, all the power goes down, and then just in second, third gear, a little bit of wheel spin. A lot of action behind, coming down the straight. Everyone's jostling for position. I'm through into the lead. Nelson second, Mark Sura third. Then we see a bit of action here with Gonzani, Eddie on the outside. Ricardo's just touched, and then he goes flying into Eddie Shiva. Really not their fault at all. Coming round, going into club. Elio's in third, Senna fourth. Keke just come up into fifth place now. Coming up onto the main straight. So a lot of action on the first lap, and here we have Eddie and Ricardo obviously discussing the incident. Neither of them very happy, and justifiably so. Keke overtaking Senna on the outside. Really charging now. So again, he's come up behind the other Lotus of Elio De Angelis, and I think he'll be diving on the inside. Here he is, come into the braking area. Now he's up into third place, going very, very quickly indeed. And again, Keke slipstreaming Nelson Piquet. Carl Arm is very, very good for this, and he's overtaking him. And he should be able to pull back to get his line for the next corner. So there we have myself, Keke Rosberg, Nelson Piquet, Elio De Angelis and Ayrton Senna all running quickly at the front. There's Nelson, who would have been very competitive in the race, retiring. And here we have Keke Rosberg slipstreaming me to come to overtake. I'm waving him through at this point. I see no point in holding him up, and he's going very, very quickly, and it's a long, long race. At this point I was just thinking, if I can sit on the tail of Keke and just wait and see what happens, because it's the early stage of the race. It's very significant, Gonzani blowing up in the Tolman, and instead of pulling off quickly he decided to go around a few corners, dropping his oil everywhere. Senna also blowing up, and here we have, you can see the oil, and we're both almost on line. Keke's sliding straight off, and I just scrabbled around the corner. Keke did an excellent job keeping the engine running, and was probably a little fortuitous managing to get it back on the circuit as quickly as he did. But that little bit of oil almost claimed both Williams drivers. Elio De Angelis, Alain Prost, Niki Lauda. If you watch Prost now, he'll dive in under braking and unsettle Elio, and his car twitches, and he almost pushes him out on the outside of the corner, and then Niki's able to get through on the same manoeuvre. Here we have Keke coming up through the grid again, overtaking Elio De Angelis. And the race is really hotting up now at the front, because Alan will be very, very close. Some more action. There's some more oil drop there, and the corner does go around to the left, and unfortunately he got it a bit crossed up. Keke making his first pit stop. Williams mechanics at it. Very, very quick stop. 9.04 seconds. Very, very good. Here's the fight for the race at the moment. Myself, Alain Prost, Niki Lauda. Stefan Johansson is one lap down, having stopped for tyres already. You'll see that Niki will pull out of this line and go into the pits for his first stop. Here he comes now into the pits. McLaren mechanics hard at it. Not as quick as they can do, but still wasn't a bad time. Here we have the fight again, myself and Alain Prost. He pulls out and he makes his first pit stop. At this point I'm thinking, if I can keep going for a few laps and hopefully build up a little bit more time, then I can make my stop and have my fresh tyres to last all the distance and be able to go hard at it at the end if need be. Coming into the pits now, Williams mechanics to do a splendid job. Alan Chalice on the back there, Dave Stubbs on the front board, and he won't get out of the way until everything's ready. Away we go. Significantly, Niki Lauda comes into the pits with a blown turbo and has to retire. Overtaking some back markers. Keke making a second stop after driving so hard he blistered his tyres. And here's Alan again, charging at the end. Keke overtaking him round sunset. Keke back into second place. Going a little wide at Barbecue, doing a tremendous job to keep it on the circuit. Driving very, very quickly indeed. It's in fact when he set his fastest lap and broke the track record. And now coming up onto the last lap. And a very, very good moment for the Williams team. The first 1-2 of the season and for some years. Oh, that's very kind of you, Keke. It's just what I wanted. This is a bit of film that got me into trouble. Yeah, the second win was almost as good as the first.
So 2 in a row for a delighted Mansell. And now the Grand Prix circus travelled on across the Southern Hemisphere to the final race of the year at a completely new venue, Adelaide in South Australia. For many Formula One people, this was their first visit to Australia, and it gave them a chance to meet some of the local inhabitants. Carlo Chiti of the Minardi team seemed to have found a long-lost relative. Certainly the family resemblance was striking. The circuit itself was superbly laid out on public roads and was enhanced by excellent facilities, efficient organisation, a huge crowd and a highly dramatic race. To confirm the qualifying story of 1985, Senna took his 7th pole position out of 16 starts, an extraordinary achievement. But once again, Nigel Mansell was on the front row with him. Prost on the second row now had no championship points to worry about. But there was quite a battle over who would get 3rd place in the final table between De Angelis, Rosberg, Mansell and the pole man, Ayrton Senna.
So that's the beginning of the Grand Prix. I was on pole position, having Mansell beside me. We were all very worried about the first corner with a potential accident, but Mansell took well the lead. He did a good start, and I had to drop to 2nd place. But 3 corners later I saw a spot and I went for it. Everyone was clear on the start, and now you see that I tried the overtaking maneuver by the inside. There was room for only 1 car, so when Nigel tried to keep up by the outside, we had some moment there. But that's racing anyway. So Keke took the advantage of that moment to take the lead. And then on the straight he was already clear from me, as you see there. And the main thing on the track was to keep the brakes alive, especially at the beginning of the race with the cars. Full tanks, 45 gallons of fuel, and with a lot of heat. So tires and brakes were the critical thing there in Adelaide. At the beginning of the race I kept together with Keke for several laps, but then I started real tire problems and I dropped a little bit. In the meantime, Mansell on the first lap stopped with some problems, and then later Prost takes Alboreto, who was with some rear tire problems, and 2 corners later Surer does the same thing. So Alboreto lost 2 positions in 2-3 corners. So Prost was lying 3rd ahead of Surer, and that was Helio, who was black flag from the organizers, and Jones didn't have a very good race there. He was doing well through the race, but then had a mechanical problem, and Prost the same, the engine failure. As you can see, a lot of smoke there. But anyway, it was not a bad year for Prost. He was really the world champion. So that time I was coming to Keke again and I did a mistake there. Hit the curb under brake and then went over the other curb, having a big moment. But the car held together nice, very strong car. There you see. I knew that there was a big runoff area there as I walked around the track 2 days before, so it really helped the situation at that moment. Then Keck slowed down dramatically when I never expect, and I end up hitting him from behind, losing half of the airfoil, and at the same time he was in for tires, and it was a big moment, really difficult to control the car with half of the airfoil. So when I was coming to the pits, the car went straight on the corner. I just lost completely the front, and I lost not only the car but the pit entrance completely, so I had to do an extra lap again to come in for tires and the new front nose. Sure, who was coming third, quite strong at this moment, had a moment with a back marker and had a suspension problem, a tire problem. When I was coming to the pits, Rosberg was already with me again, so as I slowed down very much to the inside line, he goes around the outside and take me. So I must say, at that moment my mechanics did a very good job. In 25 seconds they only not changed the tires but also the front nose. The car was handling perfect like the beginning of the race after this repair. And when I come back on the track, I was then lying third place behind Lauda and Keke, and with new tires, so I had a very quick pace and start to push Lauda. And eventually I go through him on the straight, but with my rear tires graining already, so I was losing speed at that time of the race. And later Lauda fight back and take me again. At this moment Keck comes for a second pit stop, so I take the lead momentarily. And Keck come back in third place, pushing quite strong. And Lauda then fight me back and take me the same way as I did to him earlier. But for a very short time, because he had then some brake problems, and at the end of the main straight line he has a brake failure and hit the wall. But he was well with his car, nice with his car, with the tires, and at the same time Keke was coming very strong with new tires. Now you see Lauda, he will have a problem there. The car just pulls to the left when he hit the brakes. So that was the end of it. The last race of Nick Lauda for 85. And then Keke comes very strong from behind, but he was also in some tire trouble already at that moment, so it would have been a good fight, I believe. But the engine of my car expired at that moment there on the straight, so I slowed down, put my arm up, so to let him aware that I was slowing down and avoid any further problems. And from there on, Keke just went away and had a nice win. My team still tried to repair the problem with the engine, but it was impossible. It was inside failure on the V6, and that was it. The engine was still running, but only in 3 cylinders instead of 6. Keke then, with such a good lead, stopped for a new set of car, but only on the rear, to make the safer race. And then the two Ligiers were fighting each other, and on the last lap, as you just seen, hit each other, nearly pushed themselves out. And then Keke then have a nice win, certainly a good way to finish the season, and a race which he really deserves to win. There you see the two Ligier drivers. Strife is a younger guy into Formula One, and it's good to see young people coming on the roster and giving a hard time to the old boys.
So, amid applause in southern Australia, the long season was suddenly at an end. Rosberg's win had given him third in the championship by 2 points from Senna. and Prost's total of 73 points equalled Jimmy Clark's record of 22 years ago. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren took the title for the second year on the trot, with Ferrari second, and Williams tied with Lotus for third, but took the place on the basis of the most wins. Alain Prost had finally taken the title for France after coming so near in the 2 previous years, but 8 different drivers and 5 different teams had shared the winning. From Brazil to Australia, 16 close-fought races in 5 continents. It had been a long and hard year, a vintage